Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of the tutorial series OmniStudio. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to create new records with the help of DataRaptor Post Actions. Before configuring the DataRaptor, I would like to walk you through some concept like how OmniScript works, how the nodes are getting created, and where do the value get stored in the OmniScript, and how can you configure it in the DataRaptor later on. So currently, I have few pre-filled key value pairs that comes out of the box because on OmniScript has configured this, and these are either org level or user level settings which are getting reflected here. If I fill in the fields here, they gets reflected in the data JSON under the account tab here. And the reason it falls under the account key, basically it's because this is a parent key to all of the key value pairs that falls under the step. This is the step name that we configured at the time of configuring the step, and all the other fields that are displaying here are the name of the other fields. For example, this account name was the name of this field. This is just the label. However, the API name will be account name for this. Similarly, phone, fax, and website. So if I fill in all the fields, it gets reflected in the data JSON, and everything falls under the account parent key. The reason I'm walking you through this is because we are going to utilize this data JSON when we will be configuring our DataRaptor post action. By clicking on this clipboard button, we can copy the whole data JSON, and I use a website called JSON Blob in order to keep my data JSONs intact for some time, maybe either when I'm configuring DataRaptor or any other thing in the OmniJSON. This comes handy. Now let's come back to our design section where we are going to add the DataRaptor action. It can be found under the actions tab, and here it is, the DataRaptor post action. We can drag and drop just below our step. If you click on DataRaptor interfaces, you'll get a list of all the DataRaptors that are there in the org, and if you want to configure it, for our requirement, we are going to create a new DataRaptor, and a good practice is to name it as per the functionality. So I'll be naming it as dr save account. When I click on OK, a new DataRaptor gets created, and we are redirected to a new page that is DataRaptor, and its interface type is load. In order to configure this, we have to click on object to select which object we are going to save our record to. So we'll choose account and I'll lock it. I usually just have a habit of doing this. By selecting this, we just chose that to which object we are going to insert our data, but still there are configurations pending. That is, we need to map the fields. So in this section, we tell the DataRaptor that with which key value pairs we are going to receive our value, and to which node, or you can say to which field we are going to save these values to. Let's open it and see one of them. I'm not configuring the input data JSON right now. I'll just show you these are all the fields that we have in our account object. We can choose any one of them and map it to the data that is being sent from the OmniScript. So a required field is account name. We can search by typing in it, and so right now we haven't configured anything. How will we get this node? So in order to get this node, we have to go to our OmniScript back and see how our data was preparing. So you see this get erased every time. That's why I always keep this intact. So I'll have to give the correct path to which node I want to configure my name field. So a required field is account name. You see it is one level under the account. So the path will be account and account name. So we'll go back to our DataRaptor. In this, we can type it like this: account, colon, and the second node, that is account name. A thing to notice here is in Salesforce, we have a dot notation to access the child node. In OmniScript or in DataRaptor, we have a column notation. So it is account, colon, and then account name. Similar to this, we can configure other fields as well. So before configuring other fields, I want you to draw your attention toward this input JSON. Since we created a new DataRaptor in the OmniScript, these nodes get created automatically, but this will not happen every time if you'll create a new DataRaptor independently, that is by going into DataRaptors and creating a new one. It will not fill in directly. So in these kind of cases, if you already have a data JSON which you want to map to, then you can use it like this, the way I'm telling you. So I had this saved already. I can copy this and paste it in the input data JSON. And the reason for doing this is because earlier, if we do not have this, no field will be auto populating. So let's say in this case, we want to map phone field. So we can search phone in account object and the input data JSON. Basically, the nodes which are coming from OmniScript, we can search it in here as well. And the source of this drop down is actually the input data JSON. You'll be able to see everything that you have in input data JSON. In our case, we want to choose phone field, so we can either choose it directly, and if we have a lot of fields already, then we can search and choose the one that we want. Let's quickly do other fields as well. Now all of our fields are configured correctly. So what is the way to test if it is configured correctly or not? There are two ways to do that. Either you can go to your OmniScript and try to create a new record here. We'll go through each one by one. And other way is to directly do it in preview section. So let's try the preview one first, because we already have a data here. We just have to paste it in the input section. So we are utilizing the same data that we copied from the OmniScript earlier. And how can we verify if a new account actually got created or not? So let's go to our accounts first and see if we have any record already with this name. So no account is there. Let's go back to our OmniScript and DataRaptor. In here we pasted the data that we copied from OmniScript and hit on execute. You see a new account got created. So if we click on this, in a new tab, our newly created account will be displayed, and you can see all the details that we entered at the time of testing that. The name of account is test name, the phone numbers are reflecting, website is reflecting, annual revenue, and the number of employees here. So this verifies that our DataRaptor is working. But right now we just checked it in preview. We also have to make sure that it works along with the OmniScript as well. For that we can preview it. Now we'll fill in the data for our new account, test account 2 this time and a different number. We can use the same in facts. Now when we'll hit next, our DataRaptor will be executed. You can see that in action in our action debugger as well. So right now there is no action listed in here. When you click on next, this will show you what all actions are being performed in between. For some reason it is overlapping, but you can see there are few nodes here. This is remote action, request data and response data. In request data, it tells you what all data is being passed to the DataRaptor, and in the response action you get the response. So we'll analyze both one by one. Let's go back to our JSON blob. Right now we copied the request block and we see that all the data JSON that we had is getting passed to the DataRaptor, and this is the bundle name, that is dr save account. And if we analyze the response block here, so we'll paste it here again, we see the whole data response that we got, and in here in result somewhere we will see that the new record got created, and you can see it in here. You don't have to understand it whole right now. It's just to make sure that a new account is created, and the idea is this. We can also verify the same by going into the accounts. Let's see if our account got created, and you can see that it actually got created. So that verifies it. Therefore, we can now say that our DataRaptor post action is correctly configured and is working. Now one thing we missed here is the naming of this DataRaptor. A best practice, or you can say a good practice, will be if you name the DataRaptor as dr and the type of DataRaptor and its functionality. So it's save account. Label is optional for this, but it's good if you give it so that you can see the same in action debugger, and it is easier to identify if there are multiple actions listed one after the other. Right now, after completing the save DataRaptor, we do not have any step, that's why the screen was coming as blank. So let's add another step here, and we can add a text block after this. So either you can search it in here, or maybe you can just type it. And since we want a static block, and we'll just say that account saved. So it will be a good user experience only. That's why I'm adding it. No additional functionalities because of it. We'll check it again once. Now when I click on next, upon saving this record, I get redirected to the next step and it says account saved. Learned how to configure a DataRaptor post action to create new records. In our next tutorial, we'll cover how to retrieve data and prefill the values in the OmniScript. So see you in the next video. In this tutorial, we covered a happy flow, but in real life, you might come into errors like if you do not provide or forget to map a required field. Let's see what happens in those cases. So firstly, we'll remove this required field mapping from here. So name is a required field. Let's remove it and see how does it impacts the OmniScript. Now, when we go back to the OmniScript and click on next, an error pops up that says required fields are missing, and the same can be seen in the action debugger as well. So now we come back to analyzing the request data. I copied the whole data, and when I checked it, I saw that the account name was actually being sent to the data JSON of the DataRaptor, but for some reason it is not actually saving it. I can go to preview and check here as well, and I'll see the same result. By this I can conclude that this field actually is not getting saved, and I can verify if this field was actually mapped or not. So I'll map it. And the error will be resolved. Apart from this, same error can arise due to another thing as well, and that is when we are not passing the value in account name. And if we remove it from the preview, I cannot do it from the OmniScript right now because I marked it as required. But if I do not mark it as required and try to fill, do not fill any value in here, so the data JSON will look something like this, where account name will be empty. And when I click on execute, I'll again get the same error, that is required fields are empty. So there are two possibilities for this error, that is either the value is not being passed correctly or the field is not mapped.